is Phil Keoghan. He's joining us from Now Energy. And where's your location right now? Are you in Santa Monica or are you in?
Yeah, I'm in Santa Monica. We have an office in Santa Monica, and kind of like this is where we're based out of.
Oh, okay, awesome. Tell me about your. Tell me about. I was watching a video, and you talk about in one of your videos about this MS movement and the ripple effect it has on other families. So I just wanted you to kind of tell us what MS was and how you got involved and how important that movement is.
Well, I first got involved in the MS movement about 6 years ago when my wife and I were asked to sponsor a local cycling team here in Santa Monica, and the team had a cool mission. It's an amateur team, and its focus was on MS awareness, but also supporting young riders who had potential to really do well professionally. And I've worked with young people throughout my career, and I didn't know really that much about MS early on. And part of the mission was to take part in bike MS rides, or in particular the Ventura, Southern California bike MS ride. And once I took part in the ride, I really got a good sense of what the MS community was doing for MS awareness. There's actually 100 bike MS rides across the country with over 110,000 people. And when I took part in that first ride, I was kind of hooked. I liked the idea that people were out doing something for themselves, getting fit, setting a goal, but at the same time doing something for somebody else. And I met people with MS. I didn't know a lot about MS, and I talked to them about it, found out that it's a very complicated disease, found out that that there were 400,000 Americans with MS, but of course, as you were saying before, or you alluded to before, way more people are affected by it, whether it's brothers, sisters, parents, co-workers. It has such a ripple effect, as you said, throughout the entire United States. There's over 2 million people in the United States that are being diagnosed with it. It's kind of interesting because if you think about the fact that there were 400,000 people in the United States diagnosed with MS, and they say there's only 2 million diagnosed throughout the world, we're looking at a tremendous number that have been diagnosed in the U.S. compared to the number of people that must be living in the world who don't even know they have MS. And part of that is because of medical treatments and diagnosis. It's a difficult disease to diagnose, and it affects people in so many different ways, and it's very difficult to sort of just say that MS is one particular thing because it affects people in so many different ways.
Sure. Well, a couple years ago, you rode across America on the MS charity ride, and how could you give me I'm sure there was plenty of different experiences you had that stood out, but could you give us one, maybe interesting one as you were riding across America that stood out?
Yeah, well, the ride across America was really motivated by the idea of accomplishing three things. One, I wanted to take on the biggest physical and mental challenge of my life. Two, I live by a philosophy called no opportunity wasted, and so I have a number of things on that list that I want to tick off. And on that list, I had that I wanted to spend real quality time with my father on some kind of adventure. So that was the second reason. And the third reason was that I had on my life list that I would like to raise $1 million for a charity in my lifetime. And I thought that by riding across America, we could hook up with all the MS chapters across the country. As I mentioned, there's 100 MS rides, and there are a number of chapters all across America. And I thought, if I hook up with the MS chapter in Denver and Chicago and Pittsburgh and Washington and New York, leaving here from Los Angeles with the MS chapter, then we could really generate some fundraising. So we set a goal of $250,000, And by the time we were halfway through the ride, we hit that goal. And by the time we finished the ride, we hit 500,000. And just recently, after making the film and it's screening in theaters across the country and also screening on Showtime, we were able to hit the $1 million mark.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Let me ask you a question. What is, to your organization, what is the most important? Would it be your mission, your core values, or your vision?
Kind of hard to separate them. I don't know if I can kind of separate them. They're all sort of interwoven. I mean, I live by this philosophy now, and I have done since I was 19, and that's really about encouraging people to write a list of things to do before they die and making the most of life and living life to the fullest. So I think it really encompasses all of that, setting goals. And
well, that's good information. How about this? Can you name the person? Because you're a very influential person. You're the host of the famous race, a show that we all love. But who has had a tremendous impact as your life as a leader? Because you are a leader. So maybe somebody that's mentored you. Is there anybody like that?
Well, I really would have to credit my parents for showing me that anything is really possible. My mom is a music teacher. My father is a plant scientist, and I left to go overseas when I was very young. We lived in third world countries, and I spent 8 years living in Antigua.
Wow.
And I saw them do extraordinary things with very little. I saw them make things work when they didn't have a lot of resources or money. And I think that really taught me that when you focus on what you do have and what you can do, as opposed to what you don't have and what you can't do, that you can accomplish extraordinary things. So they were really the first teachers. And then over time, I've grown to admire leaders like Edmund Hillary, who was the first person to stand up on the top of Mount Everest in 1953 with Tenzing Norgay, and Peter Blake, who won the Around the World race a number of times. He's a New Zealander and a leader. He was tragically killed about 10 years ago by pirates in the Amazon while he was on a Cousteau expedition. So over time, I've just been influenced by stories, I guess, history. Probably the most powerful leadership story that I've ever read was the Shackleton story, which took place at the beginning of the 20th century down in Antarctica, when he was stuck in the ice and he managed to get all his men out alive. Most extraordinary story. So, yeah, I'm driven by those legendary stories, I guess, but it really all started with my parents.
That's great. What? Let's go to the Amazing Race for a minute. A little bit of fun stuff. Do you have any stories or pivotal moments that stuck out to you? Because you've been all over the world and you've done this show for quite some time. Are there any pivotal moments that stuck out to you while hosting that show?
Oh yeah, I mean, the thing about Amazing Race is it's about people pushing themselves to do things that they never thought they would do. People have never had a passport. People have never traveled outside their state. People taking on physical and mental challenges unlike anything that they ever dreamed of trying. And that's really a huge part of what my whole philosophy is about. That's why I wrote my book, because I'm constantly trying to push people. And so seeing somebody like David and Mary, David is a coal miner from Kentucky, getting on a plane for the first time and flying overseas for the first time. Those pivotal moments that you're asking me about, I mean, I'm blessed that they happen every season. There are people doing things that they couldn't even dream of. They were going to places that they, in many cases, didn't even know existed.
Right.
So Yeah, it happens all the time, and it goes right back to season one with Nancy and Emily, a mother and daughter team. Now there's been hundreds of people who have been on Amazing Race, and every one of them is changed for life when they come on the show.
Right. That's a great job. Well, we love what you do. I love your bike racing team. Your girls, your ladies are awesome, and they are true competitors.
Yeah,
And we love that you support them. We see your brand out at all those races, supporting all the local cycling communities around the country, and so we really appreciate that, and we really appreciate your support to keep the cycling community going and live. And I love your brand. I love eating your bars. So I think that's excellent.
Well, the bars were my favorite bar from New Zealand originally, and when I was looking to ride across America and I needed to fuel myself, I was thinking, what can I eat for 40 days that's going to give me the energy that I need and that I'm not going to get sick of and taste good. That was the big thing. And Manuka honey is the key ingredient of our bar. And I mentioned my dad's a plant scientist, and when I used to fall off my bike when I was a kid, he would take raw Manuka honey and just put it straight on the road rash. And just stick it straight on the road rash. And it has such healing properties and is a natural antiseptic that it would help to heal road rash. And because it has an active ingredient, I guess honey is one of those foods that it's one of the only foods that does not perish. In Egyptian tombs, they have honey. It's an incredible fuel source. And this Manuka honey, special Manuka honey, as opposed to just any honey, is a New Zealand product. And that's the key ingredient. And I needed something that I could eat that wasn't going to spike my energy and then have me drop off and crash. But something that was like, you light the fire in the morning, you have some oatmeal and some solid food. And then while you're riding, you need something that's easy on your stomach and that will just keep your energy level consistent so that you can ride 100 miles a day for 40 days and not be, starving for the wrong thing or spiking or bonking or any of that. You want to, and this was the product. And so now we have the energy bars and we have the Manuka Newtons, which people are loving, and we actually have a road rash cream coming out, and
that's cool.
Yeah, it's all based around Manuka honey.
Good. Well, we love your brand. We love what you do. Do you have any other questions for us? We appreciate and we're honored that you gave us the time in the interview.
Oh, of course. I guess what I would ask, if anybody's listening to this and want to know more about what we're doing, is to go to noopportunitywasted.com and to see what now is all about, and also just with people's level of interest in cycling, to look at the professional women's cycling team that we have, which has a campaign called Together in MS, where we take our professional riders and we put them on tandem bicycles at Bike MS events around the country. I'm heading to Ohio this weekend to ride with a woman who was diagnosed with MS last year, and together we're going to be riding a tandem, but I have two of our professional riders, Ashley and I believe Devin is going, who are going to be riding with people who have MS on tandem bikes as well. So that's our whole campaign. Yes, we go out, we win races, and Allison Powers is leading the national points race. Robin Farina won nationals last year, and we have the Irish champion and a former Canadian. Yes, we have extraordinary riders, but perhaps more than the fact that these women are so extraordinary on a bicycle professionally is that they take part in this Together in MS campaign.
That's great. Well, thank you for joining us on CyclingIllustrated.com, and I appreciate all of your time.
There you go.